And you can have prolapse where your uterus actually drops.
I've heard of that.
Yeah.
That would be so terrifying.
Yes.
My God. What
Yes.
is that?
Sorry, my uterus just fell out.
No, seriously.
Between the Reps with BreeAnna and Jeanna Chancharulo is a CastBox original, produced alongside Studio 71.
CastBox is the fastest growing and highest rated podcast app on both iOS and Android, where you can find all your favorite podcasts.
You can listen to Between the Reps wherever you get your podcasts, but we hope you'll give CastBox a shot. We think it's the best. Hey guys, welcome to Between the Reps with Brooke and Jeanna. And this is our first episode where we have a guest.
Yay!
I feel so honored.
Guest host. We're all hosts here.
Yeah.
We're all equals.
We have BreeAnna Cox, and she is a really good friend of mine. I've known her for a long time. She is a pre- and post-natal specialist, personal trainer. She's been training for 10 years, specializes in nutrition. And we're having her on to talk about being pregnant while you are still training and staying healthy. She is having her third baby, so she has way more experience than me and even way more experience than Jeanna because Jeanna never was training.
I didn't work out when I was pregnant.
But you can find her on social media on Instagram at BodyByBree2, so the number 2. She's got online coaching. She's now actually a coach with me in my Naked program, which we are revamping and relaunching new stuff for early next year. So yeah, you're going to see a lot more. You are going to see a lot more of her. You're going to see not more of her. You're going to see a whole hell of a lot more of her through my social channels as we start launching new programs. But what we want to talk about today is something I know half about, Jeanna knows half about, and BreeAnna has first.
She knows all about.
She knows all about
All
it, and
about
it's
it.
being
All
pregnant
the nitty-gritty.
Yeah.
and training. So you are currently 15 weeks pregnant.
Yes.
With baby number 3.
Yes.
Which is crazy because she's teeny.
No,
Yeah.
I'm not.
She's like, she
Yeah.
shows up, looks so cute.
Teeny tiny. We rolled out of
I'm
bed.
a total hot mess. I just flew in
This
from
girl has
Atlanta.
got it together, man.
And she's adorable, and she's like, she's tiny. Anyways, before we get into it really quick, just give me a little rundown about like a few bullet points about you that other people may not know, and then we're just going to get right into about how hard it is to build a baby.
Right. It is hard. Just a couple bullet points. I already have 2 children. So I just
Experience.
How old are they?
Yes, I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Oh, you're busy.
I am busy.
They're adorable.
I'm very busy, but I feel like I just can relate to moms, and that's what I am very passionate about because I always see women working out and they're doing things that I'm like, stop, you're gonna hurt your body. So it's just like my mission to help spread this information because I'm so passionate about it. And I hurt myself after my first, so I'm like, I don't want other people to do that, you know? So.
And it's I imagine it's got to be kind of tough too because everyone is different. It's like,
Yes.
But there are really great like rules of thumbs
Yes.
when it comes to training that you should always start with regardless of like if you are an outlier or if you are the
Exactly.
exception. You know, you should always start there and then sort of I guess make little adjustments along the way.
Yeah, and the frustrating thing is every pregnancy is different. Like you might feel
Right.
really good one pregnancy, and the
then
next
really
one you might be
terrible.
like on bed rest. So that's what's hard. You have to have no expectations.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been pregnant, but my sisters have all had pregnancies, and like my sister's first pregnancy was okay, but she actually with her first 2 was stuck in the hospital a lot with kidney infections.
So
Like
frustrating.
really, really bad, and she was really sick. And so after her second pregnancy, and she was she swam on the Junior Olympic swim team, so she was an athlete, and she was training, but
Right.
definitely not training kind of like I do, or training even the way that you do,
Right.
or maybe more women might be training nowadays, like with a lot of weights and things like that. But her third pregnancy, they were really scared to even try and have another baby because honestly, you're playing with fire when it comes to like her kidneys were in such rough shape after 2
Yeah, that's scary.
full-term babies of being in the hospital. And then her third one, she had twins,
Oh boy.
and she was smaller than she was with either of her first 2, and she was not sick at all. Like it was completely a total 180 from her first 2 pregnancies, which was crazy. It was like an easier pregnancy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you always say in your head like, oh, I'm going to do this, or this is how I'm going to be. And you never know.
Okay. So pregnancy number
Get thrown
1,
a curveball.
it's your first baby. What were the things that you did to sort of prepare for that? Because it terrifies me.
Yeah.
Like just thinking about like, mostly I want to talk about the training side, but you can definitely touch a little bit on like the nutrition side. Like what was your plan?
Well, I think with the first one, I didn't have a lot of expectations. I just kind of thought, oh, I don't know, this is what I'll do. Because I was in like relatively good shape before. So I just always I felt really good with my first pregnancy. I wasn't sick. I felt completely normal. But I think that's where I kind of got in trouble because I did the exact same workouts. I didn't ever modify anything. And then after I had the baby, I got right back into it like a week and a half after having my baby.
Yeah, and you did your first like bikini bodybuilding competition right after the first one.
Yeah, I started training for it like 5.5 months after my baby was born.
Wow.
Which isn't the smartest because your body's still trying to be put back together.
Yeah.
Right.
So. And I definitely, I don't want to say that that's like the normal at all, but being in the fitness industry, I have seen, lots of,
especially to get back.
They start getting right back to it. And I think you can speak to it more than I could, but you should get back to being active.
Right.
But there still are, it takes your body how long to build the baby. Like it doesn't, it's not all of a sudden back to square one. Right. It's like you probably need to follow a series of steps in like an order of operation to get back to where that is too.
What I see is women, and this was my problem too, is I just wanted to keep doing everything that I was doing before. And I didn't want it to stop me from doing anything, and I wanted to stay really fit. So I was sitting there doing burpees like 9 months pregnant.
Right.
And I'm like doing, jumping jacks, and it's like all this pressure on my pelvic floor, which I had nothing, I didn't know anything about that. I was just like, oh, I'm healthy, whatever. Yeah. I was still doing like mountain climbers and all this stuff that you want to start cutting out when you're pregnant. Right. And it was just too much for my body. And then I got right back into working out after. And then I really regretted it because my pelvic floor muscle is just like, they could not hold all of that weight, Mm-hmm. So I think more often than not, women put so much pressure on themselves to like, oh, I just want to be as healthy as possible, and they overdo it. And that's where they hurt themselves.
Yeah.
So
what specifically would you say was like the biggest issue coming back, I guess? Which is at a certain point needing to be like, now I have to really start over with like my pelvic floor.
Yes. And I think you're just not used, like for me, the first baby, I was like, whose body is this? Like I had no idea. My hips were wider, so then my knees were out of alignment, my back hurt. You have extra progesterone in your body, so you can pull muscles really easily and ligaments. Your joints are all loose. Like it is the weirdest. And you're like kind of humbled because you're like, oh man, I got to start all over again.
Yeah,
right.
So I think that was probably the hardest, and also just listening to your body and taking it slow. Because like I said, just jumping right back into it too soon is where you do damage. And also I was going to say, when you're doing your workouts when you're pregnant, most women don't realize that their abs have separated.
Yeah, I've definitely heard a lot about that and seen that separation that like doesn't come back together.
Yes, yeah, the diastasis recti. So you'll have everybody's abs will separate when they're pregnant. That's just what happens. It's a baby coming through, so your abs have to go to the side.
Yep.
So for me, at like 15 weeks, mine are already separated. I've already cut out all core exercises. Like this baby, I am so much more cautious because when you keep doing abs, when your abs are already separating, it's just going to keep pulling them apart. It's just going to put more pressure on your abs, mm-hmm. and it's going to make them separate faster. And women think, oh, I'll keep working core so my stomach stays smaller, but that's the opposite of what you want to do.
Oh, because it doesn't want to go all the way back together?
Yeah, because when let's say you're doing planks and your abs are already separating, it's just going to keep separating more.
Yeah, because when you flex your core, it definitely does things start to contract. So if your body's pulling it this way,
right.
and it's still wanting to contract, it's probably...
Mm-hmm. It's too much pressure. So like right now, if I lean back, my abs cone out in the middle because I have like a 1-inch gap where I don't have any abs.
Right.
And
Yeah, I've
so-
seen that, and you can almost like feel it.
Yes. And
It's
so
like an alien.
that's exactly. Once that starts happening, you want to stop doing all your core exercises. And then same with like the jumping, pounding movements. Even first trimester, things are super like, you just have to be very careful because you can knock the like sack off of the walls. And so you just want to be careful with doing like pounding stuff, like box jumps, you know, running, jumping jacks, that's all fine. But just pounding stuff you want to be careful with. And I cut out, now that I'm in my second trimester, I cut out box jumps, running even, because it's still like your uterus is so heavy and it's still pounding on your pelvic floor muscles and mine are weak. So I'm like very, very cautious. So anyway.
I think a lot of times people think too, it's like it's for the baby. You know what I mean? I mean, the baby's protected, right?
Yes.
And so everyone's like, oh, the baby's fine because like, it's got all the liquid around it or whatever, but it is really just for your own body.
Yes, you're supporting muscles.
Right.
So then after women have a hard time like holding their pee, you know, like their bladders are like super loose, everything's loose. And you can have prolapse where your uterus actually drops.
I've heard of that.
Yeah.
That would be so terrifying.
Yes.
My God. What is that?
Sorry, my uterus just fell out.
Just fell
No,
out.
seriously. No, seriously. Or you feel like your insides are so loose that like they're gonna fall out. You feel it.
That's
it's so
terrifying.
loose. So you want to just avoid that at all costs. So,
I just
yeah.
heard
My
about
hands
this.
are full. My uterus is falling out.
No, I was just talking to somebody about this because they have a PT or something like that that's just for pelvic floor.
Yes.
And it's
Well, my friend
crazy.
Jen has one.
No, so she went in and this woman, like she like laid on her back, she put her finger in her vagina and then made her do like a Kegel and hold it for 10 seconds. And I was like,
I'm doing
What
one
if-
right now.
are they qualified to do that? Like, do you like check someone's qualifications? Can you imagine like if a man just came up and was like, I'm
I
going to
just
put
need to put
my finger in your vagina.
squeeze.
I want you to squeeze. I'm going to hold it for like 10 seconds. And yep, you're good.
Yeah, that is
But yeah,
how
no,
you.
I've heard
It's
that.
crazy. You have to like actually go to physical therapy to repair your pelvic floor if it's that damaged.
Well, and because there's no other way to get to it.
Right.
You know what I mean, there's
Exactly.
like I've never had anyone.
I look
put
like,
their,
I
I've never
like
had
that you're
anyone.
like looking like you're strapping in or
I've
something
never
like
had
that.
anyone like.
have you seen the Kegel weights? They're like weights that you hold in. You have
Yes.
to try to hold.
You have to hold them in. I've
It
actually
works,
done that
though.
before.
It works.
Yeah, I used to
Well,
do it in the shower.
A girlfriend of mine, she like, and I get like this if I'm on my period. Like in the middle of a training session, I get the gnarliest cramps. That like everything is like seizing up basically, and it feels. The only way I can describe it to people, mostly to men,
An
to try and
orgasm?
no, well, that also happens. That's
When
for
she
another
works
episode. That
I mean,
is,
that's how- yeah,
is
okay.
true, and that's for a different
It's like
episode.
Arnold.
But basically, I tried to explain. It feels like I am coming.
Yeah. I'm glad you got that reference.
But I'm like, when I try to explain it to like men mostly, I'm like, it literally feels like my insides, like your low pelvic floor is like a wet rag being wrung out.
Right.
And it's like, for her, it will happen, like for Jen, it happens a lot. And it will last for so long after she trains, and it happens during competitions. And so she started working with like same thing, like a pelvic floor specialist. It's like,
Oh, because she's had kids. Yeah.
no, Jen
it from
hasn't
kids?
had no
Oh.
kids.
Oh.
She's just so
just-
tight down there.
Yeah.
Oh, well, good for her.
Oh, good
We
for
all want
her.
to be tied down there.
good for her.
Oh, good for you. Oh, yeah? You are?
But on the opposite end, there are women who are scared to work out because they're like, oh, I don't want to, hurt anything. And then that, on the other hand, is also not good because
Yeah.
it's so beneficial. It makes your labor faster, your recovery way quicker. It even helps with like varicose veins, helps with your blood circulation, all of your, like when you get cankles and
Yep.
stuff, it helps with all of that because when you work out, you're moving
want
all
to
your
move
blood,
that blood
flow.
around.
Exactly. It helps with your mood. It helps you eat healthier. So I'm like the biggest advocate of working out pregnant, and it's completely safe. You just have to know the modifications.
Well, and you really just have to, for me, same thing. It's like I know how to work with pregnant women in the gym, but it's still different than when you yourself are pregnant because
Yes.
everyone's going to have a different pregnancy. So
Yes.
super important to practice being able to check in with yourself to know how things feel, and then get off like, you're going to have to be humble.
Yes.
Like you said, like you were humbled because especially in, I think people like from my sort of training, like we really do, you train through, discomfort. And when we train people, we're teaching them that like this discomfort isn't bad.
Yeah.
So now if you've learned how to like understand
Push
that like this
through.
pain is
Right.
actually not bad, it's actually good, and that's how we see results, and that's how you build muscle and get stronger. Well, now you're going to have to start to learn another way of like, well, that's important to have, but now you're learning your body in a whole new way. So I like what you said about that, like you were pregnant and you were finished and you're like, whose body is this? Like everything is different, you know? So I guess if I ever decided to build one of those things called a baby, I've definitely had to go through the process of like, stop doing all my training and having to come back like from
It's like an injury. Your
It's
baby's an
hard.
injury.
And it's
Your
so
baby's
hard
an
to
injury.
start over every time.
Yeah.
Right.
You're like,
So
ugh.
going into your second then, so now you have, before your first, you were obviously working out and in good shape, but you hadn't like really dove deep into fitness, had you?
Well, I've always loved it, but I've never done a competition.
Okay.
So
Were you coaching? Were you
I was
training at the time?
Yeah. I've been personal training since I was like 18. So it's always been a part of my life. But I just wanted, you get like, I remember I was in the hospital and I was like, no carbs for me. They're like, do you want a burger?
Dude,
I'm
I
like,
can
no.
relate to that.
Yeah. No, I'm good. I'll
like,
just
no,
be here
you
with my
need to
protein.
fuel your baby.
Yes, because you want
Right.
to feel normal so bad. You're so sick of being so huge that you're like, I just want to get back into it. So then then you get like snap back into reality really quick when you're on like 2 hours of sleep and you're like, okay,
I'll eat a burger.
survival mode.
I'll take a cheeseburger.
Never
Give
mind.
me the carbs.
I need
Give
all
me the carbs.
So then after like, it was like 5.5 months, I had to quit nursing because I just lost all my milk. And anyway, I just was like, I needed a challenge. So that's when I got into competing.
Okay. And you, how long, I guess?
Well, there's 2 years between your kids,
Yeah.
right? So
So you did your competition and then did one more year and then you got pregnant.
Yeah. And then I had to start all over again.
Yeah. Was your
Let's do
second
this
one? Was your
again.
second one planned or unplanned?
Yeah, it was planned.
Was your third one planned?
Yes.
Okay. I mean,
We're
that's kind
crazy,
of nice, though.
yes.
But that's kind of nice, you know. Like at least like you for that you've been mentally preparing yourself,
Right. Yes, I knew. And
that's what I think could be the hardest is if it's a surprise and you're
Yes.
someone who is so into like routine and you know competing or not competing but like training and diet and things like that.
And it's a big part. I told Adam, like, it's really hard for me to get pregnant because training is such a big part of my life. It's really hard for me to feel so like modified in everything and not be able to like push myself and feel strong. Like that's a hard thing for me. It sounds selfish, but just like every day to get that endorphin high, it's important.
It's definitely not selfish. I think that if I've learned anything from being around a lot of different moms and at different stages in their life, like grandmas, like first-time moms or mother, like my mom, you know, is that it's so important to remember that. And again, easier said than done because I have not had a baby. But the advice I've been given is that you have to put yourself first. As much as like being a mom, you don't want to. Like my mom told me, you know, she put her kids before everything.
Right.
I mean, before her marriage, before her work, before everything, before herself. And we had it. I mean, I felt that. We felt that, you know?
Yeah.
But also, it's like, but as kids, like, we need you to love you.
Yes.
We need to watch you take care of you because that's how we learn how to do it for ourselves, you know? And as long as you're happy and you feel good, they will feel that. And they will, you know, that's going to in turn, like, transfer over to them and through this whole, like, process of, like, building a baby. So staying healthy and staying fit through your pregnancy is like for sure important because if you can get a little endorphin rush, it may not be as intense as like,
but it helps
you
my
know,
mood so much.
It will help a ton. So through what you've learned through your first two, is there anything going into this third one? You look great, by the way.
You're so sweet.
That you'd like to try and do differently, or maybe you just want to pay closer attention to XYZ.
Yeah, 100%. Like I am a totally different mindset this time around. I'm more focused on how can I protect my body while trying to be as healthy as possible. And so I modify everything. I'm like, nope, that hurts. I'm not doing that. Oh, I feel that in my back. I'm done doing that one, you know? And so even like the trainers, sometimes I get a little frustrated because sometimes like trainers will be like, go heavier. Why aren't you doing core? I'm like, I need to teach you guys a little bit on,
Right.
and so, and even like with your progesterone, how your muscles are so loose, like when I do deadlifts, I'm like at half what I normally do because you can pull things so easily and I feel it in my back. And so it's like just things like that. I'm totally given up my ego and I am just all about protecting my body.
Yeah, you definitely have to check your ego at the door.
Yes.
How often do you work out, you think?
I work out 6 days a week, sometimes 5 if I'm tired, but it's like my release, especially having 2 kids.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, I need to get to the gym.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, but thank you so much, Bree, for coming and talking to us about being pregnant. She actually is going to a doctor's appointment.
Yay!
So she's going to go and
make her
check that
late.
baby out. A couple of things, just like rules of thumb that I know that I follow with coaching pregnant women, and I'm sure Bree could either add to it or just agree, is it's very important to just remember through the very beginning process, like keep doing what you're doing until something feels uncomfortable. Then you just cut it out. There's no reason to test it more.
Right.
If you do it once and it feels uncomfortable, cut it out. Start modifying. And that's like from a beginning point. And as you move through that first trimester, obviously you're going to have bigger modifications as you go further into your pregnancy. You're going to cut out more movements as you go further into your pregnancy. And then from there, it's super important, from what I understand, is as you get further in with intensity or with breathing heavy, it's very important to be able to maintain a conversation with your trainer. That's something that I've learned, and I've worked with pregnant women when they're in my class, is making sure you're not going so hard that your heart your heart is pumping so fast that you cannot have a calm conversation while you're training. Just take care of yourself and take care of your baby, and definitely take care of yourself so we don't have to be sending you guys uterus weights.
Kegel weights.
Uterus weights.
We just want him to fall out.
Kegel. Is it Kegel?
Kegel, I think. Kegel.
Yeah.
Kegel weights. And do your Kegels, guys.
Yeah, do them.
Do your Kegels. I'm doing them right now. All right. We'll see you guys in just a minute. We won't see you. Actually, we'll talk to you. Thanks, Bree.
Thank you, Bree.
Thanks, guys.
Have a
I
great
learned
doctor's
about
appointment.
pregnancy
Have a great weekend.
Now that I'm done.
Yeah.
We're having kids ever
Remember
again.
all this stuff, Gina, so in case I need these information.
I'll tell my
Hey,
kids
in
when they're
case you
having
get
kids.
knocked up again.
Right.
You
Well, I
never
don't
know.
think
You
that's
never
gonna
know.
It's physically
Menopause is
impossible.
for another menopause
Yeah,
for
that's
another
a
time. And we will definitely have you back, and we'll talk about that postpartum, which is
Yes.
very important.
Whole nother beast.
Oh, yeah. This episode of Between the Reps with Brooke and Jeanna is brought to you by Care Of.
Care Of is a monthly subscription vitamin service that delivers completely personalized vitamin and supplement packs right to your door.
Super convenient. Your vitamins get delivered right to your door in a personalized, easy-to-remember daily packs, perfect for a busy, on-the-go lifestyle, which is something I definitely have.
Definitely do.
And I'm not very good at taking my vitamins. Like, I definitely have to have things on my counter in front of me for me to remember to take them. so for real,
Right in front of me.
So the fact that if I have to go to the store to buy it, it ain't happening. So this has been really helpful.
You can track your progress with the Care Of app and earn rewards when you remember to take your vitamins.
They have special offerings for vegan and vegetarian supplement options available to match your dietary needs. Also, offers pre- and post-natal supplements with accompanying research to help mothers and babies alike stay their healthiest. That's very cool, because I can imagine the amount of people that go into having a baby and not quite sure what they should be taking. Yeah. And when you first sign up for this, they have a quiz. So you go to the website and you take this quiz, and it's really cool because I think a lot of us probably could use a little extra supplementation that we don't even realize. And they help you figure out what those things might be by asking you an assortment of questions that have to do with a lot of things like sleep, just your activity level, what you're doing, allergies, things like that.
Health goals.
Yep. And it makes it really, really helpful to have a full supplementation. And of course, it comes every week on its own. For 25% off of your first month of a personalized Care Of vitamins, visit takecareof.com and enter the promo code reps. Again, if you'd like to try this for 25% off your first month of personalized Care of vitamins, visit takecareof.com and enter the promo code REPS. Thanks for waiting around, you guys. Hopefully you're still here listening. We are back. BreeAnna is already on her way to the doctor's appointment. She's got to go check the baby out. And me and Jeanna are still going to talk about being pregnant and working out. I don't have firsthand experience, but I do have siblings. My whole family's very active. And we've had some different pregnancies at my house. So I'll start by just saying what we heard from BreeAnna is super important. I have been training and worked with women when they're pregnant for a long time now. But even something that she brought up, I had never really thought about. And I don't think that you would necessarily think about it unless you yourself had gone through it. And right. I haven't, and it was the thing about paying attention to protecting your body,
Right, because you always think it's the baby.
Yeah, because I
definitely protect the baby, but really the baby's protected.
Yeah, because I immediately think like, oh, well, it's almost like your body's like just this like super strong shield to shield the baby. But I never really considered, how little things would be affecting my ability to recover.
Right.
It's always for sure like thinking like, oh, is the baby okay? Is the baby okay? It's like, yeah, the baby's in there. And like, yeah, you can run and do these things because it's fine. But then like she said, there's a lot of weight and pressure moving in your body. And you have all this progesterone and you're very lax. Your body becomes very flexible because it has to be because soon it's going to open up. You know what I mean?
I like how you made like this motion like your vagina becomes like this 5-foot wide hole. You're just giving birth to a 12-year-old boy or something.
I picture Ace Ventura when nature calls.
Oh my God, when he comes out of the rhino's butt. I don't know why I still think that's so funny.
It is so funny.
Oh my God.
Anyways, yeah, I didn't think about that. I kind of pictured like my body, especially now, it's like strong and it's just it knows what it's supposed to do. It opens up and things move and your abs move and you build a baby.
It just goes right back.
It just goes right back.
And
but that is not the case.
That's not the
people.
Case.
So yeah, my sister could not have kids. So for her, her whole growing up, she couldn't have them. She didn't have a menstrual cycle and she got married and she like really wanted to try and have a baby. And it's like, well, she was always told her whole life she couldn't. And then she went to a specialist that was like, no, I think we can definitely get you pregnant. And so they did in vitro. If you guys don't know what in vitro is, it's you have to put like basically taking shots every single day for so long.
Yeah, they're gonna
hormones,
they're gonna grow like an embryo and then put it in and
Anyways, a lot of stuff that we're not going to talk about because I don't know much about it, and we'll do it another time maybe. But she was doing in vitro, and for her, when she got pregnant, she was, I think, overly concerned about the idea that maybe her body couldn't, like it wasn't meant to build a baby, so had to be overly protective.
Sure.
When in reality, it was worse for her health-wise, mental health-wise, to do that.
Because she just felt like she couldn't do anything?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then honestly, it can become like an excuse. And no, 100%. So like I'm talking about my own personal experience with my family. So like my sister, wants to get her health better, and she needed to lose weight, definitely more heavy set. And so for me, sometimes, and even for her, you go into something where it's like eating for two.
Right.
Right. You don't need to think about it like that, but it can become something that can be an easy out.
Oh, I did that for sure.
Yes. But so for her with like health and fitness,
right,
to a certain extent, 100%, to even have to be told your entire life that you can't have kids and now you're pregnant, you're going to be super cautious. So for her, it's not about needing to go to the gym and try and lose weight while you're pregnant. No. But it's more so like, let's keep your mental health really good. And it's not going to the gym and doing a bunch of stuff you haven't been doing. It's just going for a walk.
Moving.
And definitely like where, the type of training I do, you're obviously probably thinking I'm picturing going to the gym and lifting and doing everything you can except for the things that like bother you. No, I think it's just for certain people, I think, well, for everyone, but I wouldn't put that on any of you since I don't know you. But for like my family, it is mental health. It is just sweat, breathe, move, because you will feel better.
Right.
And like Bree said, the endorphins help so much. And for her, it was a pretty scary experience, but partway through, she definitely started to feel a little bit more comfortable with training, with moving, and everyone around her felt that difference because she's more pleasant to be around.
Right.
I can only imagine like with the hormones and stuff, with ups and downs of attitude, like your mood swings.
Right.
I mean, I have mood swings and I'm not building a baby. It's like my period comes and it's like, you get one good week of me a month and then you get to suffer for 3 weeks.
Everyone goes into hiding.
Seriously.
For me, it was, I wish I'd been more active for sure. My last baby, I had at 30, my little Ruby. And I kind of did what you said where it was my last kid. I was just going to, enjoy it and just, and I ate 4 sandwiches every lunch. I mean, I just like overate. It was the first time in my life that I hid what I was eating from people because I just could not stop eating. I would literally go in the pantry and eat 2 cookies really fast and then come out with 2 like, oh, look I only ate 2 cookies.
So do you think that like it was something that was more of a like mentally was your body like also
I'll tell you what I honestly
it?
think it was. I had my first so young, was not a planned pregnancy, would not recommend it. But so young, and I had always been a very thin person naturally.
Yes.
And I honestly thought in my head, I'm going to eat whatever I want. And I'm not going to have to work out that hard. I'd always like worked out, but like, like treadmill or whatever. Like,
no, we talked about it. You were definitely so thin that people like thought you had like a really terrible eating disorder.
I was.
When in fact you didn't.
I didn't. I just was super genetically I was a gangle monster. And so it was so weird because like with having 10 years between my first and my last, my first one, I barely gained any weight. I was super tiny. Mm-hmm. And then with the last one, I mean, I literally had family members look at me like, whoa, do you think you're going to bounce back from that? Like I was asked that, do you think you're going to bounce back? Because I was pushing like 200 pounds. I'd started out at like 135. I was pushing 200 when I had her. And it was just from like it was just overeating. I mean, one time we had like a block party at my work and In-N-Out came and I ate 4 double doubles. And I would have eaten a 5th, but people were looking at me. And I was like, I have a problem. I have a real problem.
You needed an intervention.
Yeah,
you needed that friend there to smack that double out of your head.
I definitely would not recommend doing what I did. I mean, I would definitely recommend being active every day. Yes, you can eat more, but just don't go off the rails. I mean,
you know what?
Stick with a plan.
I mean, this is not, don't take this as Bible, but because I've heard this, but it makes a lot of sense too. And I think this could be a better motivation for people that are pregnant and having, what you are doing physically, what you are eating while you're pregnant, you are, whoa.
Did you hear my stomach?
Is that an alien? But what you were doing,
I just found out I was pregnant. Just kidding. Anyway, sorry,
Jesus.
Go ahead. Yeah.
What you're doing is you're forming and you're basically setting up. You're building a baby.
Yeah.
They're having adaptation. I would say, I don't know like the best way to put it, but it's like you are setting themselves up for how maybe they are going to function. Because they talk about with like kids are so malleable, right? I find it super important with children with their diet. Sometimes kids are super picky and they don't want to eat things. So, parents will just start giving them whatever they'll eat. I understand that. I don't have kids, but I do have lots of nieces and nephews and they're all very different. And I also went through phases where they didn't eat anything. Like my sister's kids wouldn't eat anything but Go-Gurts. They ate nothing but Go-Gurts.
Right.
And my aunt's kids were like, she had twins, same thing. You know, at a certain point, you just want them to eat. And even my sister's kids are so small, super active, super thin. But I still, every time I come home, I'm always like, you can't do what you can to change what they're eating because you're training their body, right? You are getting their body to function at a certain rate and move food around and use it as fuel. And like you're teaching the body how to like work and what to eat and what it does. And I think that starts at even a earlier stage, like when you're building this baby.
Well, definitely. I mean,
so like
I don't want to make it sound like I wasn't healthy at all.
No, I'm not. Your saddlebags. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, but like I think it's more so if more people think about that, where we think about. I can't speak for you, but I would assume, which is never a good thing to do. Fuck, I'm really screwing it up right now.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna assume anyways that we think about like the health of the baby as far as like safety, right? So we think like your physical activity. Trying to be like safe for the baby. Like is the baby like, am I hurting it if I do this exercise? Am I doing this? And then we think about food. We don't really think about food as safety. Right. We think about just as food as fuel. It's just calories. It's just you got to build the baby. And you're building the baby, so we got to eat the calories because you got to build the baby. So if we start thinking more about diet in terms of safety as well, or how you are, you know, you're teaching that body, this baby, to use food as fuel, and we give it and we think more about, you know, the types of food we're giving it, or because for some people, I'm sure they're sometimes may just think like food as fuel and food, just food in general, but not think about like the quality of food.
Right.
But if we think more about how important it is that we're teaching this new little body how to eat, you know, how to use good food as fuel, we're kind of setting that baby, that child up for having a much healthier, you know, life and having a body that's going to function really well. And then, you know, you don't want them to have like health problems,
right?
You know, and we see the epidemic of like obesity, and we see these epidemics of like high blood pressure. And I mean, I've met people being a trainer that have brought kids in that the kids have such high cholesterol, but you look at them and they're not like, I had a woman bring in her child one day. It was years ago. It was when I was actually a personal trainer before doing CrossFit. And the doctor needed this kid to work. They were trying to get their cholesterol levels and their blood pressure down. Mm-hmm. But the child was like really small. Like looking at the little girl, like you never think like, oh, your health is not good.
Right.
So thin. But the food quality she ate was so bad. But her body, from the outsider looking in, was using it just fine because she wasn't fat.
Well, and some of it's genetics too.
Yes.
Right.
You know, but like it's so it's like that. It's like change the quality of food so we can make a big difference on the overall health, not just the overall weight.
Right.
You know, for yourself, obviously, and for the baby.
Well, and for the record, Ruby hates In-N-Out Burger.
But so also, for the record, we have to like sneak protein into things to try and feed her. She's
No, I'm not saying that she's super healthy. I'm just saying it's interesting that she hates In-N-Out Burger. I'm like, with all the double doubles I ate.
What's the weirdest pregnancy craving that you had?
Oh, I wasn't like a ice cream and pickles person. I like just really, I wasn't normally a sweets eater, and I just wanted to eat all the sweets. I think that was the weirdest thing. Was there
anything that you...
And it was just the amount of food that I could eat, because I was, you know me, I'm not a huge eater. No. So the amounts of food that I could take down were massive with her. And it wasn't the same with the first one.
Two, or first
one. And I mean, I still was trying to rock a thong underwear. And I remember my ex, I was bent over trying to get into those things. And it was so bad. I looked like a string roast. It was a floating triangle in the front. It looked like I just had a floating underwear on.
Like it was just a press on.
And I looked back, and the look on his face was pure fear. And because we'd been together for like 8-9 years before we had a baby together. Anyway. And he was pure fear. And I just said, "What?" And he goes, "Nothing. You know, you might be a bigger girl, and that's okay with me." That's what he said to me.
Oh my God.
I really let it go. So yeah, I had a lot of work to do afterward.
Man.
So
okay,
just don't let yourself get there.
But
is the thing.
On that note, right? Just before we kind of end this podcast,
yeah,
they say like 9 months to build and it's 9 months to lose. Do you feel like how long for you? I guess like you are probably. Sorry,
I think if I was,
I just had a stroke. What was it like for you making a decision to sort of get on the get fit train? Because you weren't really into fitness prior. You know, it's like Bree really talks about how like for her,
because it's going to be easier.
And because she was like, and I think it'd be the same for me as well, or you now, because you care so much about health and fitness, you're training, where it's almost like as soon as you have the baby, you're like, oh man, I get to get started, right? So like for you, not coming from that at first,
being a normal person?
Yeah, being normal.
Me being a normal person?
What, I guess, at what point were you like, okay, I guess I should like start running or walking?
Well, I think it's really easy for people after they have their child to kind of just be so focused on them. I mean, we talked about that already. And then, especially if you have other children, I mean, I think for me, it was hard to make that a priority just because I was so busy. And I know there's a lot of moms out there that are like, I'm so busy. Like I've got, 2 schools to drive to, and I have, and some women are working, and some women are, some are working outside the home, and some have like all these like extracurricular activities with babies, and anyway, all this kind of stuff going on with multiple kids, and then you kind of go, well, like you said, they don't make time for themselves, and so for me, it was about a year or so before I just was kind of like, I really am tired of, not having the energy, and having to just really make the time, whether I had to, go to the gym for an hour, go for a run for an hour when, my husband at the time got home or whatever it is. Some people are just too busy doing dinners and this and that, and they're so exhausted by the time.
Yeah, which is,
but I'm telling you, you have to just, even if it's a half an hour, whatever it is. My
other sister, I have 2 sisters, first pregnancy, for her, and this we're definitely going to have Bree back to talk about postpartum, but she was very depressed. I mean, it was like really bad, and she was young too. It was an accident when she got pregnant. Yeah, and I guess
we call those a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, it was a pleasant surprise. But for her, it took a long time for her to get to a point where, because everyone's felt this, where you have a goal, but it can feel so far away that it almost keeps you from even trying, right? Because it feels so impossible. And so and I've been there too, and not from a baby, but for her, it took a while for her to like get to a point where she could like start training again. And then for her, they just, found ways to be able to fit it in. And that's when she really started training at home a lot and putting, building like a home gym and stuff like that.
And
so
you'll convince yourself. You'll say,
really help.
There's just no way to fit it in. There's no way to fit in. Even if you have to get up a half hour earlier, and I know it's exhausting. I know. But it will the benefits way outweigh.
Yeah, and think about it as like a compound effect. Like you may not have an hour or 2 or whatever, but to do a little bit every day, think about like it will build over time, and it's so much better than not doing it at all.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and food is key. You have to eat well.
Yeah.
That's a whole other thing.
That's a whole nother thing.
A whole other thing.
But yeah, super interesting. I knew that I would learn things, but I definitely, my eyes were open to a lot of ideas or realities that I didn't have. I never even was thinking about.
Right.
Super important to think about your own body and not just the body of the baby you're building. We are all important. And
that Bree's a smart cookie.
She's a smart cookie, and she's adorable. BreeAnna Cox. You guys can find her on Instagram at Body by Bree 2. And and talking about just training at home, I am relaunching my naked training. We have multiple programs, and we're going to be building a pregnancy program, a mommy program, and then also a postpartum program. And so a lot of this is all going to be stuff at home. Yeah, it's going to be stuff and minimal equipment, and we're really working on building something and having something available to all types of women and men, but really focusing a lot on the women and for sure the mommies at home, because we want to help you guys do what you can to, be as healthy and fit and feel good about yourself as possible. So, yeah.
Cool stuff.
Cool stuff. Thanks for listening to Between the Reps with Brooke and Jeanna. And we'll see you guys. You won't see us. I always say that. We'll see you guys next week. Love you guys. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.